Welcome to Mother-Daughter Projects. I'm Steph.
I'm Vicki, and today's project is inspired by Pinterest. It was actually a stained glass project that hangs, and I thought, oh, I'd love to recreate that, but I can't do stained glass, or I don't want to do stained glass, so we need to find another way.
Mom showed it to me, and I thought this would be the perfect project for the Cricut Maker, and we bought that about 8 months ago, and we've been having so much fun. Well, I've been having so much fun with the Cricut Maker because there's so much you can create with it. So I thought, yep, Cricut Maker and epoxy would be perfect. So come join us as we show you how it all came together.
Part 1 is to make the shapes. We're using a Cricut Maker, 2 heavy chipboard sheets, the Cricut knife blade, 4 sheets of black vinyl, and the Cricut fine point blade. First, attach the chipboard to the Cricut purple strong grip mat, adding masking tape all around to secure it. Load the Cricut knife blade in the machine and move the star wheels all the way over to the right. I'm not going to go into how I created the shapes as it took a little bit of work, but we will have the file available to download for free on our website. Here is Cricut Design Space. We have the shapes loaded into the canvas and click Make It. Now, one of the shapes defaulted to a second sheet, but all you need to do is click on that shape and click Move Object and select the first mat. Now, move the objects around so they fit within the 11 by 11 space. Here you can see all the shapes fit within the size of my material and click Continue. The Cricut needs to be plugged in to your computer and on at this point. You'll need to browse all materials and search for chipboard. Choose heavy chipboard and hit done. Here is the reminder on your screen to do all the things that we just did to set up the mat and machine. Now load your mat into the machine and click the Load Unload button and then the Cricut button. Here's a sped up version of the cut. It took about half an hour to complete. With the chipboard, the Cricut makes multiple passes to cut it out completely. Keep an eye on the machine as it's cutting in case anything gets stuck or loose during the process. And it's done! Remove your shapes. We don't need the inside pieces, but you can keep those for a potential next project. Use the same Cricut file, but this time cut these shapes on 4 sheets of black vinyl using the Cricut fine point blade. We actually used a black temporary vinyl because we liked the matte texture that it had. And even though it's temporary, it's been holding strong so far. Part 2, it's epoxy time. You're gonna need epoxy of your choice, alcohol ink, a pipette, silicone mat, and glue stick. We first laid out the shapes on the silicone mat for placement, then Mom applied glue to the back of each shape and placed them on the silicone mat using a weight to set them. Once they were glued to the mat, Mom used canned air to make sure the area was dust-free. Here's our collection of alcohol ink that we'll be using in this project. We picked these up a little while back at Joann's. We're using our favorite epoxy called Easy Cast that we get from Amazon. There are a ton of brands of epoxy out there. If you heard nothing else, hear this. Read your instructions. That is key to a successful epoxy project. Our epoxy has to stir the resin and hardener for 2 minutes and then combine them and stir for 1 minute. This is the disposable pipette we're using to get the epoxy into the shallow depth of the shapes without spillage. I added the epoxy while Mom added the alcohol ink in a creative way. Here they're all done, and we waited a full 24 hours for them to cure. They were very easy to remove, just bent the silicone mat back and we were able to cleanly get off the shapes. Now, we actually did this project twice, but ultimately decided we liked both, so we decided to use both sets in our project. This is actually the first set that we made. We mixed the epoxy as before, but this time we added some mica powder pigment to the color of the epoxy. We added more powder for each couple shapes as we tried to go for an ombre effect, which we don't feel like we actually achieved it, but they still look kind of cool. It was after this that we made the second batch with the alcohol ink. Here's where we decided to use both sets, and Mom is figuring out how we want the groups to hang. This part is completely up to you. It can be based on the space that you'll be hanging this. Next, Mom drew outlines where the shapes will go and used a black Sharpie to blacken the edges of the shapes. Part 3, hanging. You're gonna need a piece of wood, metal wire, drill bit, glue gun, and 3M picture hanging strips. Remember when we cut out the 4 sheets of vinyl? You'll use 2 of the vinyl shapes for each epoxy shape. We found laying the vinyl down and placing the shape on top was the best way to get it on and lined up. Then turn it over and do the same thing. On the back side, pull up the top edge, place a dab of super glue, and add your hanging wire. By the way, we cut our wire at 14 inches for each strand and will shorten the necessary ones later. Here they are with their wires attached. We're using a 1/4 by 2 piece of poplar wood to attach the shapes to. Mom drew 3 lines on the board and marked where to place each shape. I drilled small holes through each. Mom numbered each spot, so we just fed each wire into its proper place. Then we pulled the wood up until the longest shape's wire was close to the edge of the wood. Then we hot glued the pieces into place and cut off the excess wire. Mom picked it up and wow, so cool! We held it up to the window to get a better look. To secure it in my kitchen window, I used 3M picture hanger strips. The wood we painted the same color as the wall so it didn't stand out. And here it is, all done. I love this new art piece.
What we learned.
One of the things we found out was there are differences in silicone pads. Some of them have textures and some do not. This one does not have any texture and it left the epoxy pieces perfectly clear. Now the one that had a little bit of texture left a little bit of cloudiness. So when you're looking for silicone pads, try to find one with absolutely no texture.
We've been using epoxy for years now, but I just recently actually got some epoxy molds. I got 2 packs from Amazon, and it was really nice because the molds are great when you have extra epoxy, or they're like coasters. You can make coasters and fun little things, and it's really simple because you don't have to make any kind of mold. It's just there for you. But also they came with some tools that we weren't familiar with before, and that's where we got the pipette that we use to actually put the material, the epoxy, into the shapes. And it also came with this little stick that helps us put the powder into the epoxy. So it came with some cool tips. We'll put a link to a couple of those below, and highly recommend them.
We ended up making 2 sets of shapes on 2 different kinds of chipboard, and we really like the one that is totally solid rather than the one that has a little bit of texture. So if you're going to be cutting these out, cut them out in solid chipboard. And the thing I would have done if we'd known we were going to be using the black vinyl was to spray paint those cardboard shapes before we did anything, and that way everything would have been painted and sealed and ready to go.
Epoxy is a fun material to work with. We've worked with it for a while now, but in our last project that we used epoxy, a viewer actually commented and said, there's a lot of danger to epoxy. Are you aware of all this? And it made us do some research, and there was things we weren't aware of. So we'll put a couple links below to some videos about really the safety you want to have when you are working with epoxy. And the big thing is you want to wear appropriate PPE and have good ventilation. That's why we were in the garage when we were working with the epoxy, and the dog was not out there, just if anyone was wondering, because we want to keep everyone safe. So thanks for joining us today. If you like epoxy products, please give us a big thumbs up on this, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Okay, do your part again. My part was good. Sorry, it was.
Mine was good.
No, I needed a little bit more. A little more enthusiasm. Ready?
Today, no.